If you've got a little bit of spare time and some transparent or translucent filament, you can turn a cheap Amazon nightlight into something pretty cool. Interested? We'll get into it right after this. I'm Brian, and you are watching BV3D. Hello 3D printing friends, and welcome back. Okay, so today I'm showing off this little 3D printed crystal nightlight project. This is something I designed myself around this inexpensive 4-pack of nightlights I found on Amazon. I went through probably 20 or more iterations on the design. The earlier ones needed to be glued together, but that was kind of a pain to deal with. I wanted something that would just snap together with a minimal parts count, and would be somewhat serviceable if a piece got broken. After all, glued together parts are generally not super easy to disassemble and work on. So I kept working on the problem and finally came up with this design. There are only 3 parts to it. There's the base that sits on the nightlight, there's a C-clip that keeps the base attached, and then there's the crystal itself, which prints in spiral vase mode. I originally experimented with a few different shapes, but I kept coming back to the crystal design because I think crystals look cool and they scatter the light really nicely, especially when printed with a translucent filament. I guess technically there are 5 parts because I made 3 different sizes of the crystal, but you know what I meant. Let's talk about print settings real quick, and in particular that spiral vase mode I mentioned a few seconds ago. Yes, I'm American, so my pronunciation of vase rhymes with face, unlike the rest of the planet where it sounds more like vase. Some slicers, like Cura, avoid the pronunciation issue entirely by calling the setting spiralized outer contour, but Prusa Slicer, Orca Slicer, and Bamboo Studio call it Spiral Vase. For those who don't know what it does, Spiral Vase mode prints by moving upward in a spiral, tracing the outer shape of the model. As the nozzle traces around the model's shape, it's slowly moving upward as well, so by the time it completes an orbit, it has moved up by 1 layer. It's kind of like a road going up a cartoon mountain. Actually, I think an even better analogy is a slinky toy. It's one continuous filament path rather than individually stacked layers. Spiral vase mode is useful for the crystals in this project because it's a 1-wall thick print, and it doesn't have a visible Z seam since the Z is slowly and constantly moving up during the print job. This gives a nice, smooth finish, and when paired with a translucent or transparent type of filament, is great for things that need to pass light. This printing mode has some limitations though. The path around the model has to be completely unbroken. No gaps in the path. So if there are openings in the side of the model or things that branch off of it, spiral vase mode won't work. And flat, horizontal areas aren't going to work either. The printer's nozzle is only going to go around the outside of the model. It's not going to fill things in horizontally. Well, except for the first few bottom layers. Those are handled a bit more traditionally. When you enable it, your slicer will probably adjust several other settings automatically, things like the outer wall count and the number of top layers. Typically, spiral vase mode uses maybe 3 or 4 solid bottom layers before it springs into action doing the slinky thing. But I wanted a really sturdy bottom on these crystals because that part connects into the base and holds the crystal in place on the nightlight. So I ended up printing them with 20 solid bottom layers. That may sound excessive, but I wanted that locking section to be extra durable. Oh, and I set the outer wall line width to 0.8 millimeters. Yes, you can do that with a 0.4 millimeter nozzle, and it's perfectly okay. Doing it that way gives me the solid bottom part that I need, while keeping the crystal strong. Meanwhile, there's nothing special about printing the base and the C-clip that connect the crystals to the nightlights. Standard settings work just fine. I've got the 3MF project files up on MakerWorld with these settings already configured, but I know that not everybody has a Bamboo Lab printer, so you can download the STL files there as well. Check the video description for both a link to the project and a link to the nightlights on Amazon. And once you have the STLs, just to recap, standard settings for the base and clip using 0.2 millimeter layer height. Spiral vase mode for the crystals, 0.2 millimeter layer height, 20 solid bottom layers, and a 0.8 millimeter outer wall. The base parts should take about 35 minutes to print, and the crystals are another 25 to 45 minutes each, depending on the size. I used white PLA for the base parts, and I used some transparent protopasta filament for the crystals. You can use whatever filament you like, but keep in mind that translucent or transparent filament makes for the best crystals. Even natural untinted PLA works great. The crystals don't take very long to print, so feel free to experiment with different filaments and see what you like best. So, get to printing, and then I'll show you how to assemble the project. Before we can put a crystal on the nightlight, we have to get rid of the diffuser that comes with it. That's actually pretty easy. They're just snapped together. There are clips on either side at the top and bottom. Use a small screwdriver to press in at the seam and dislodge the clips. Then separate the two halves of the diffuser and set them aside. Now you've got the nightlight module on its own. The printed base slides into place over the top of it. Make sure the base has the slot for the C-clip at the bottom. With the base in place, slide the C-clip into the slot to lock it down. The C-clip will stick out a little bit, and that's on purpose. If you ever need to remove the base, you can use pliers to grab that tab and pull the C-clip out. Finally, slide the crystal into the slot on the top of the base, and that's it. Super easy to put together. Now, plug it in someplace where you need a little extra visibility in the dark, and enjoy. So there you go, a simple little 3D printed nightlight project. I had a lot of fun designing this, and I hope you have fun printing it. Thank you for watching, and a big thanks to everyone who supports the channel, whether with channel memberships or by using the links in the description. If you liked this episode, give it a thumbs up, and maybe subscribe so you don't miss new ones. Well, 3D printing friends, that's about all the time we have for this one. And now that we're at the end, let's go print something cool.